just identify as a woman and this problem goes away. Like it's linked to the Y chromosome being a crappy chromosome that sort of is falling apart over time.
Bringing you a reasoned approach to health and fitness. This is the Phi Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Phi Life Podcast. I'm John Barban. With me is Brad Pilon. And today we're going to talk about the degeneration of Y chromosomes over time.
Yeah.
And how that is linked to what we see in the data, in the epidemiological data across the world of men having a shorter lifespan than women.
Yeah.
And
every country throughout time always been the finding. And it's not just like a new thing. This has just always been the finding in every country. No one's going to dispute that. Yeah.
So it's hard to come up with a reason. It can't be a lifestyle thing. It can't be a
food
thing.
Yeah. They've tried saying we're more reckless and shit, but every time they've actually tested those theories, it came up null. Yeah.
Right. So if it's only happening in men, independent of diet, of the society, of all of that other stuff, it kind of, the most logical place to look is the Y chromosome, because it's the one thing we have that women don't.
Yes. So women have two X's and we have one X, one Y.
Yeah.
And this is a sex, not gender thing, but that determines the sex of the person.
Yeah, you can't just identify as a woman and this problem goes away. It's linked to the Y chromosome being a crappy chromosome that sort of is falling apart over time.
Yeah.
So
fun. The X stood for unknown. It has nothing to do with its shape or anything like that. So it was just unknown what it did, and then they figured it out. And the X chromosome is massive. It's like 900 genes. And the Y chromosome is tiny. It's been listed between 54 and 72, depending if they count some duplicate genes in there.
Right. And so the male or the father contributes either an X or a Y because he's carrying one X and one Y. The mother can only contribute an X because she's carrying two X's. So this is where we gotta do a little bit of genetics here to explain what recombination is, because that's how this whole thing makes sense. So a woman is carrying two X's. When her egg cell is created, the two copies of the X she's carrying do something called recombination, meaning they swap bits of DNA in an attempt to repair errors.
They take two X's that are at like 70% and give you an X that's at like 100. They fix all the little mistakes.
Try to get as close to 100 as possible, right? So it's kind of like having two copies of a book, but the book has random errors throughout it.
Some pages missing, and you just take one page and stick it in the other.
Well, not even a page missing, just errors in the pages, but not the same errors on every page. So if you cross-reference the two books with each other, you can solve most of the errors. So that's what recombination is in the woman before the egg is made, because you've got two copies of the identical book, an X and an X. So hopefully the genes she's passing on have as few errors as possible because of recombination.
Right.
In the male, you have an X and a Y. And as
Brad
Brad said, two different books, and one of them's like a pamphlet and the other one's a novel.
Yeah.
The X is much, much bigger, way more DNA information, opportunity for way more errors that need to be repaired. The Y is much, much smaller, not carrying hardly any of the same genes, minimal opportunity for either to repair the other.
So the Y basically, it's just genes. They're there to develop the thing that turns on the development of testes. So it's like it's a little itty bit of code. And then the X has just like this entire other roadmap. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And neither of them can repair each other when they recombine before a sperm is created.
Right.
So if the father contributes a Y, that Y had no chance to repair any errors it's carrying, and that error just gets passed along.
Yeah.
But also, if the father contributes an X, his Y didn't really have any opportunity to correct the X because it's so small and the X is so much larger. So in both cases, the father contributes a less repaired DNA, as it were. Now, the key thing here is the father, when he got his X chromosome from his mother, that was a repaired set because his mother's two X's had a chance to recombine and correct errors before they became the egg that became the son.
Right.
So he's carrying what you could call a repaired X from his mother.
Yes.
But at recombination, he won't further repair that X if he has a daughter. So he's passing on
a generation, right?
It's going to skip a generation. So the X in a woman, or in the woman, is correcting errors every single generation. The X a male passes along can only pass along the corrections his mother made.
But it's still
Okay.
way better than that Y, which has been
Which
handed down by generation to generation of dad mess ups.
and the Y
Yeah.
never gets to repair.
No. So blame your dad for everything. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
so from that standpoint, the Y has no opportunity to repair because it's never matched with another Y. So the
Right.
errors continue to accumulate, cannot be repaired, or it's a minimal chance the X can do anything to repair it.
And you have less room for error because there's like
smaller.
50, 70 genes as opposed to 900, right? So
Right.
each mistake is important.
So this leads to this idea that the Y chromosome overall is degenerating over time throughout evolutionary history in humans.
Yeah. So when they first evolved, like 200 million years ago, the X you have right now is probably very similar to the X that existed 200 million years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're speculating that 200 million years ago, the Y was almost the same size as the X. It's just, we're looking at sort of centuries upon centuries upon centuries of degradation.
Right.
Crazy.
And if that line doesn't curve and it stays linear, the
No
X
more
chromosome theoretically at some point in the future will degenerate to the point where there's almost nothing left.
So the Y, yeah.
The Y
Yeah.
chromosome, because it never has a chance to repair and persist.
Yeah.
So this is the concept here of that degradation of the Y chromosome. It's called a mosaic loss of the Y chromosome. Mosaic indicating that it happens in some cells but not all cells.
Right.
And the one cell type is that we have really good data showing that this happens in is white blood cells, which
cells that turn over quickly.
But that's part of your immune system. Their immune system.
Bad.
And if the cells of your immune system are disproportionately degrading over any of your other cells, that's not great, because that's what fights disease.
So you could be listening to us right now and have white blood cells that have no Y chromosome in them.
Yes, they're degrading and disappearing. They're actually disappearing from some of those cells.
Yes.
Which then leads to a potentially compromised immune system. And your immune system is fighting off infection or fighting, I guess you could say, invaders or foreign entities all the time, the time. So your body's like a collection of different organisms with different DNAs, and it's just a constant battle into almost a homeostasis, like the demilitarized zone, right? Like they're holding each other off. But as your immune system becomes more and more compromised, they just take over.
And keep in mind, we're simplifying what the immune system does. I mean, it's even involved in muscle growth as an immune adaptation. It's involved in everything, but its main role is the way you classically think of it. But we're going to show you how it ties into just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. We're kind of, as Brad pointed out, making it super simple, given that this particular breakdown of the Y chromosome affects disproportionately immune cells. Yeah. So that breakdown can be associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease that the data pretty strongly shows is a result of this loss of the Y chromosomes.
Yeah, so the gender difference in cardiovascular disease prevalence could be related to this.
Just to this. An increase, potentially affecting cancer risk due to lower immune surveillance cells.
Alzheimer's.
Seems to be linked to Alzheimer's.
Yep.
So, and this could be, and various biomarkers now that would indicate health span. So how long you can live healthily versus just how long you live at all.
Just all-cause mortality is linked to this, right? So,
and the concept of increase in biological aging. So, which might have something to do with shortening telomere lengths. I don't know. There's a lot more research has to be done, but we do know this happens, and we do know it happens disproportionately in white blood cells, immune cells.
And it's linked to aging, right?
Yes, and it gets more Y chromosomes can be measured to be disappearing as a man ages throughout his life.
Yeah. So what I've read something along the lines of 40% of white blood cells in men over 70, and like 57% of them in people over 93. Like it just keeps going up and up and up. And then in some older men, you're looking at some, not all, because again, mosaic, as we said, 80% of the cells can be short a Y chromosome. So it's weird because it's an issue, but it's not an issue across every man, right? So I could be sitting here with a massive lack of Y, and John could have a perfectly normal amount of Y, or vice versa. So they don't really know why yet. Why?
Yeah, they don't know the reason. So so this could sound like the human race is just eventually headed for extinction. If the Y chromosome disappears, then you can't. That's it. there's no more sexual reproduction. It's over. I guess all that's left is to clone eggs, and then that's it. That's all you could do.
Or a
But
new chromosome, like a new one comes out.
I don't
I don't
know.
know. Yeah,
We'd have to basically engineer a chromosome to replace it, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
No.
So okay, so why are we even saying this? So why does this even matter? Well, as we've said, for men specifically, obviously this doesn't really affect women. It can contribute to an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, cancer, and a few other things here. So what is there anything we can do about it? Like, what are you going to go just repair your Y chromosomes?
Yeah, and we covered two things though. We covered the shrinkage of the actual size of the Y chromosome, but we're actually also talking about the disappearance of the Y chromosome. And
yes,
the disappearance of the Y chromosome is accelerated by some epigenetic things. So it's not just genetics, but for instance, smoking is a massive contributor.
Yep.
So technically, if your father smoked and your grandfather smoked, you're likely to have a higher risk of amyloid than other guys.
As well as if you're smoking.
Oh, as long as you don't smoke.
Yeah. I mean, that also. I mean, if there wasn't enough reasons not to smoke, here's another one. You're literally your Y chromosomes are disappearing as you smoke.
Yeah,
so that's a bad one.
And then you wonder if they were smoking, around the time of conception, because apparently when you stop smoking, it may reverse some of this. So, but if you were smoking, a heavy smoker around the time of conception, you could have whatever damage was done, you passed on. Right, because whatever repairing you're done, you've already passed on that Y chromosome. Right. So, yeah.
And also, if the mother's smoking while the baby's in utero, could also contribute to this. I mean,
huge link between parents smoking and later obesity in that child too, which I find is fascinating.
That's a lot of it. If you look into that, it's likely epigenetic issues where various genes are either turned on or turned off, or at least more or less expressed, that lead to all kinds of metabolic issues. So if you haven't already heard the message loud and clear, don't smoke, because it could lead to this. Another one is exercising regularly can support DNA repair, which right here we're talking about DNA.
Apparently that's good for you. I heard that.
Yeah, and reduce inflammation, which again is all going to lead into the cycle of DNA degradation.
Right.
So going down the anti-inflammatory pathway, like things that are anti-inflammatory. If we didn't have a reason why, all we heard was something to do with inflammation is bad, but I can't exactly pinpoint exactly what's bad about it. This is another thing that it could be doing, is accelerating the loss of Y chromosomes.
Yeah. So a couple of points here. One, hey, if you struggle with your weight, like legit obesity, I'd love to hear in the comments, like, did your parents smoke? Not do your parents smoke now, but did they smoke? Especially like, before you were born or right around when you were born, because that would be kind of cool to know. Yeah. And then the other thing is just why John and I bring it up is because this is, even though this was discovered about 60 years ago, it's just starting to get in the news now. So it'll be interesting to follow this story along. So now that you've heard it from us, if you hear about amyloid or the loss of Y, etc., again, let us know in the comments. You're like, yeah, no, I just read about this actually a couple of weeks ago. Whenever you hear this, I think it's going to be big in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it'll be big in terms of something worth talking about, but there's only so much you can do to combat it. So it all leads to doing the things that it's all our pillars, right? Exercise and move as often as you can. Don't introduce metabolic compromising substances when you can avoid it. So don't smoke, try to limit alcohol. Like it's all the same stuff, but I guess we're just pointing out a mechanism at a super deep level, like
weird
loss of chromosomes.
In a way, and I just stumbled upon this now. So smoking and drinking from a passing on the generations, but it's way worse for men than it is women, because women get to repair that damage and then pass the gene on, whereas we're just passing you our drunken, smoked up Y to the next kid, right? So
no matter if the father passes an X or a Y, it's less repaired than the mother's X that she passes along in all cases, because at recombination the male just doesn't fix much of anything. So I mean, what else do we got here for a takeaway? It's just, I guess it's just more of an interesting thing. If you start seeing this, it just supports or further reinforces why you want to take, if you care about health span at all, I'll always qualify. If you don't care about this, who cares, right? But I'm assuming if you're here, you have some eye towards your health span and your longevity. And this is just another reason at the DNA level why exercise matters, why maintaining some kind of healthy lifestyle matters, why something to do with reducing inflammation matters, why smoking and adding in toxins like alcohol and smoke on a regular basis, what it's doing at like it literally a chromosomes disappearing out of your cells. So at least for guys.
Some tumor cells, the fast growing ones, are completely lacking in Y. Tumors that evade treatment, like bladder cancer and that kind of thing, lacking in Y. So it's good. It's the progressive tumors are particularly nasty in men. This might be. How many times can I say Y in this freaking podcast? But yeah, that might be the reason.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. We got anything else for this one?
No, but I think this would be a fun one to follow up on because there are a fair amount of patents on potential treatments. I just haven't had a chance to read through yet. So I'll review those and then we maybe chat about that in a later podcast. But it is an area that I think we should pay attention to because it's more than just guys die earlier because they're dumb, but it's legit. There's something going on here that, hey, maybe we could find a solution for in the coming decades.
Yeah, this might be a target for CRISPR. The gene editing technology goes straight to the Y chromosome and start repairing things we know are going to be a real problem here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beauty.
I think that's it for today. So for Brad Pilon, I'm John Barban, and that's your Phi Life Podcast.